Register with processor. Is that what I need to fix this issue? Register with processor. Well, there's auto register. Wait, what was the? I'll make that full screen. My query register with processor. Okay, let's see. That may not do anything differently. We'll see. Well, I need to hang on. I need to. Okay, hang on. Close up. Uh-oh. Okay, so it does not like that I'm using this function. Apparently this is a deleted function. And what is actually happening here? I think I just need to copy this part for each. Okay, let's just copy this. Fuck it, copy the whole thing. And I'm gonna just move it directly into my processor loop here. Right there. Instead of callback. Put that there. State tree context, so just change all the execution context to context. Bing, bang, boom. Okay, get rid of that. Entity, I probably already have that. Yeah, okay. It's supposed to be const? Why? Okay, yeah, that seems right. Okay, let's just delete all this then. It's messy. Don't know if I need that part. I might delete that as well. Okay, let's work now. Firm stool, hello. Been a minute. It has. Live stuff, we're just not streaming. I just haven't been streaming. I've been trying to figure out this mass entity stuff, which is super boring and really just me reading a bunch of source code and documentation, so I haven't really been streaming that. I got it sort of figured out though, so I'm gonna stream it. But yeah, mass entity stuff, and I was also just doing a lot of PCG optimization as well, which is also just like a super boring thing of me sitting there like waiting for graphs to run and shit. So yeah, just haven't been streaming. But yeah, did that build? Okay. Okay, so the indexes are still wrong. What does that mean? Why would the... I'm literally using the index. So with this query, Do I not have the right requirements put into the entity query? Because I'm iterating over the indices of the entities. I've also been meaning to take a look at the mass entity stuff in 5.5, which is that done figuring its shit out? I guess not, because none of this is none of this seems to be built properly. I downloaded the 5.5 preview because apparently there are a bunch of updates to mass in 5.5. But of course there's like zero documentation on it, so I'm just gonna have to dig through the source code and figure it out. Which is kind of what I've been doing anyway, so... I don't know whether it's worth like digging into 5.5 more or just like trying to get what I got going working. I kind of wanted to take a peek to see how different they were, but this is like... Let me try regenerating the files here. We'll let that run. Back to 5.4. Okay, so I get the entity at the entity index. And then I'm using entity, so the transforms list just doesn't have, and I guess same with the move tos list, probably just doesn't have all of them in it. What length is this? What length is it? It's 238 more. 287, 287. So let's just skip. Okay, now we're trying to access 575 from an array of size 287. Okay, so it's almost like the chunks are wrong or something? And I'm using the same context to get... I'm getting mutable fragment view as well. Is that an issue? I actually don't need it to be mutable. They're both read-only, so maybe that's why. Maybe that's why. Maybe I should just be doing get fragment view. What is this saying to me? What are you saying to me? What do you return? A t-const array view. So that, okay. Sure, sure, okay. We'll have to rebuild here. I have another cup of coffee here, so I'm very excited about that. Ooh, that's nice. Yeah, okay, so it has to be const. Makes sense. Yeah, so we'll see if those fragment lists are any different. And I've been looking at this guy's documentation on it. But it seems like it may be a bit old. Potentially 5.2 old. It's been really fucking hard to find information that isn't just like surface level details for a mass entity, so it's been kind of difficult to work with. I have gotten it to work though, and I've written my own processor and some of my own traits. Still the same issue. Still the same issue. So let me check. What is num entities here? I can't even see it. But yeah, I've written some of my own stuff here, and it's kind of hard to find any information about doing that. And the built-in stuff, all it really is for is like crowds or like pedestrian traffic. Like the only kind of navigation they have for mass is zone graph navigation. And apparently a zone graph is really just it's like a nav mesh, but not really, because it's only for lanes is what they call it, which I guess is just kind of like a spline, and then you just have entities moving along those lanes. And so you can't do, it's not for like any sort of freeform movement around the world, it's just for like car traffic or pedestrian traffic type stuff. So I had to like write my own shit to get it to actually move around on the nav mesh. Which was kind of a pain, but I got that figured out. And now I've just been trying to like figure out like optimizations and stuff, because like I rendered 1,000 entities and the game was running at like 20 FPS. So that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. And apparently these lists aren't correct, or maybe just the entity index. Yeah, maybe I should let's just pass this in. And we'll see what, I don't think it'll be any different, but we'll see. We'll see. Is 5.5 done being lame right now? Everything is just completely broken. Which, is this actually loading 5.5 into here? I would like to peek through it. Where does it say like the version? I don't know what to do here. Where did Unreal Engine go? There it is, Jesus. The goal is to hit all the NPC memes in the background. Yeah, essentially, yeah. And I have them like transitioning between like actors and stuff as well. But it's gonna require like a pretty big rework here. Like you can kind of, oh, it's working now. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, it's running marginally better. 35 FPS now. 30. You can see if I move around, these are going to start like turning into capsules instead, which is just like my debug rendering of it. And then I had to write like my own translators to, because like they have all these different fragments, one of which is a velocity fragment, which is how you get it to move. And so I'm just applying velocities to these. And they have like a built-in one for like movement, but you have to have all this additional shit for like steering and smoothing and orientation, and it was so fucking complicated. And they were moving as if they were like the most sluggish car you've ever seen, and I couldn't figure out like what parameters to set to get them to move like actual people. So I was just like, you know what, I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to apply straight velocity to it at the same velocity that the character would be moving. And then I have this translator running that translates that velocity into movement input when it's an actor, so... The rendering of fire NPCs is for debugging only. Yeah, exactly. Just so I can see what's going on here. So now we're actually down to 20, so we're dropping in FPS as this goes on. Approximation is the way it makes sense, yeah. And I should be able to do a better job approximating it as well. Because I think technically the capsules will be more efficient, right? Because the ALS movement has a bit of like acceleration into it, so I just need to like do a little bit of an acceleration there. Yeah, well, I've been running. We'll do a trace here so we can see. You're a capsule turning cog, dude. What was going on in that fucking stream this morning, dude? I was trying to. I would sit down. I was trying to get work done. But I fucking couldn't. I could not get any work done because I was just waiting for this fucking Woot Dragon guy to drop the next fucking bomb in the chat. Oh my god, it was fucking hilarious. Okay, let's look at that trace. We'll see what's going on here. Because most of it is the big part is the processor. We'll just pick a random frame here. Yeah, so these right here, these are the two big chunks. So we can see nav mesh move processor. That's the one I've written. And then we have a state tree processor as well, which apparently it's just signaling the state tree to do an update. And so working with mass and state trees has been kind of a pain in the ass as well, because you don't get to use any of the regular state tree things, so you kind of have to build everything yourself. And they have a tick function, but they don't actually tick. Tick means something different in the state tree. Like, they don't tick every frame. Tick just means, like, something has called me and asked me if I need to update. That's kind of what it means. And so my nav mesh move processor should just be signaling the state tree to tick, but then this one, I shouldn't need this to do anything anymore. Because I was kind of, like, extending this one to add an additional condition to tell the state tree to tick. Now I'm just kind of manually doing it, so I don't know why that's running as well. See, here's the state tree tick right there. I have to talk about Woot Dragon. Turning Cock, can we talk about how much this guy just didn't fucking get it? Oh my god, it was so funny. And I actually didn't hate the conversation at first. Like, I was actually, yeah, it's an insightful conversation where you can discuss game design differences and shit. But then he just didn't fucking get it, and he just took it so far to a comical extent. I could not get over it. I just ended up making fun of him in chat. It was I think he was more trolling just to be devil's advocate. Well, if he did a great job at sounding incredibly naive. I don't know, I kind of got the vibe that he was like kind of a younger guy. This was in Micro Raptor Games stream, and he's making a game called Cauldron Chronicles, where the whole point of the game is that you're an alchemist, like shopkeep, and you basically gather mats and make potions for NPCs, and you use these potions not only to solve the NPCs' problems, but to solve like little puzzles around the world and stuff. And there's going to be a little bit of potion combat as well. And then this fucking guy comes in, and he keeps just insisting that the game needs swords. You need to put swords, specifically swords for some reason. Like, he had a very pro-sword agenda, which was so funny. And he's like, I think you're really narrowing your audience. I think you could, I think it would be more successful if you just put sword combat in the game. And he's like, all these other traditional RPGs do it, and Microraptor was so fucking patient with him. Like, God bless him. He had so much more patience than I ever would have had. And at first, it's like, it's an interesting discussion on game design vision and ideals and what type of a game I'm trying to make, like what kind of niche market I'm trying to make. And at first it was like a good conversation. I was actually like there for it, right? But then this guy, he just kept saying, he's just like, yeah, but it could just be better. Yeah, but it would just be better. It would just be better if you had swords. Like, would swords make it worse? And like, everyone in the community is trying to say like, yeah, that's not what the game is about. It's just not that kind of game. It's kind of like it's a specialty game. It's a niche, right? And he just didn't fucking get it. And he just kept going. And so I just started making fun of him by being like, put more soup in the game. Who doesn't like soup? Just put soup in the game. Why not? And like, the point is like, you can do that with every single fucking feature in a game, to the point where the game isn't even a game anymore, because it's an everything game. Like, it's just bland, because there's no specialty, there's no purpose, there's nothing done considerably well, right? And it's just like, yeah, there are RPG games with melee combat. If you want to go play that game, go play it. Like, soup is a potion, soup is a weapon. Exactly. Imagine hard debating a game dev on their own game, which you haven't even played. Kill me. Yeah, he's just like, this isn't really a game I would try out, but if you put swords in it, I would try it out. And I'm just like, okay, dude, like, you haven't even tried it, though. He's like, yeah, I wouldn't stick around. I wouldn't stick around in this game. Who knows what kind of battles he's fighting. He just kind of struck me as like maybe a younger kid who doesn't really get it. Maybe he was an expert level troll. Which, he's a great troll, if that's the case. Yeah, most of us are not trying to build a traditional game. It's like, what I was saying to myself in my head, it's like when someone wants to open a bakery. It's like, oh, you want to open a bakery? Why not just do a deli counter? Grocery stores have bakeries and deli counters and a butcher counter in them as well. Why don't you just open a grocery store? It's like, well, there's already grocery stores. I don't want to do a grocery store. I'm trying to do a bakery. Yeah, but you're really limiting your audience if you don't open a grocery store. It's like, that doesn't mean every shop you see on the street needs to fucking sell everything, right? Like, when you open just a bakery, you can do specialty goods in a bakery, and you can cater to people who want really specialty bakery goods, not just the generic, loaves of bread that a grocery store sells. Like, and he just could not get it. And he could not. And Microraptor was like, yeah, I get your point. Like, yeah, it could still be a good game, and maybe it could be a more popular game if we added melee combat into it. That's just not what we're trying to do here, and I don't think it fits the vision of the game. And he just could not, like, see the other side of the point. And it was fucking amazing, honestly. It made my day. And yeah, so that's what happened there. I might have to go watch the VOD back again just because of how funny it was. Anyways, yeah, Mass Entity. Sounds on the spectrum are super young. Yeah, that's kind of what I was feeling, and it's just like, it got to the point where Microraptor, it's like, you know what, I'm gonna put an NPC in the game who just comes to your shop and just lectures you on why your potion shop should sell swords. Why doesn't your potion shop sell swords? You would have more customers if you just sold swords. I wonder if I could have grasped such arguments when I was 15. I mean, I don't know. It was not a hard argument to grasp, but everyone was trying to like get this guy to see the point. He kind of had a good attitude about it, though, even when I was kind of making fun of him a little bit. Yeah, that was amazing. That was an amazing stream. Yeah, anyways, so I don't know why Signal Entities is happening here. So my NavMesh Move processor was extending the state tree processor, and then just adding an additional signal to subscribe to, which I guess mass signals are just like, it really just feels like a wrapper around delegates. specifically to be used with mass entity. And so this state tree processor, let's actually look at that in the code here. I have that pulled up somewhere. Right, here we go. So, that's the activation processor. Here we go. Okay, so the state tree processor, it subscribes to like every single signal, including new state tree task required, which I think is the one that we're interested in. Because I was extending this and just adding my code that essentially this is the part that I want. I just need to, because this nav mesh move processor needs to check each entity and see if it's at its destination and stop the velocity. That's what needs to happen. And it needs to stop the velocity by sending an update to the state tree, or else it needs to tell the state tree, hey, check your shit, so the state tree can like continue moving on to the next state and stuff like that. So there's already a processor. There's like I think it's called the simple movement processor, which just like it just applies velocity. That's how they're moving. And so I have a find path task, and this is a state tree task, which everything in mass has to be in C++, so that's kind of annoying and quite slow to work on. But yeah, find path async, and then I have to use a signal here to do a new state tree task required once the path is found, because it's async, and then that'll complete this state and move on to the move state, which I should have up somewhere. Move to target task. Yeah, so this is the next task that gets executed. And move to next point is, I think, what gets called. Well, tick gets called from whenever that processor says that the target location is close enough to the entity's current location. We call move to next point. If there's no other point in the path, then I believe it hits this, is what I do. Changes the state to succeeded, which returns that, and then it should go into the idle state, which yet again, for idle, I had to create a task for that. So that's kind of what's happening here. But there's this state tree processor that is, I wish I could see more information here about what is happening and why it's happening, because I don't think, because when I was just extending the state tree processor, I think this was actually running a bit better, which doesn't make sense to me, because in my processor I'm not interacting with signals at all here, right? So I have the signal subsystem, but I'm not doing anything with it. It's just getting passed into the execution context. Well, let me actually see what this does. Does this use signals at all? I don't think so. I wanted to use the same system, like mass entity. You can use state trees without C++, but mass, I don't think you can. You can do, like, they have some built-in stuff that you could do with mass, but like if your use case falls outside anywhere outside of that, yeah, you're gonna need C++. So yeah, which, like, I guess, like, I can kind of show you what's capable here. So you create these like configs, and these are traits, which a trait is just a collection of fragments. A fragment is just a piece of data. And so if, you know, there's simple movement, there's if the visualizers is like how you change from an actor to like a capsule or whatever. You can do some crowd stuff, but if you want to move them on not a zone graph, you will need C++. And a zone graph it's like a nav mesh that's not actually nav mesh, it's just a group, it's just splines that cannot be edited at runtime. And so your people just move along those splines, which seems like a very limited use case. Yeah. Do I look like I'm not gonna try to get it to do crazy shit? Yeah, I feel like you probably don't fall within the bounds of what this does by default. Yeah, I mean, it really just seems like the only built-in use case is for like pedestrians or car traffic. That really seems like all you can do with it without digging in. But yeah, why is the state tree processor trying to run? I get that it's subscribed to all these signals. I do emit one of these. I do a new state tree task required, but I only do that when a new path is found. I mean, is it really happening that much each frame? And also, maybe I should do signal entity deferred here. Let's try that out, and we'll see if context. Well, we'll just be using them as context here. Can I do that? Oh, I need state tree execution context. I really wanted it just for pedestrians and traffic. Oh yeah, then if you just need it for that, then yeah, you should be able to get that accomplished pretty easily. And there's tons of, from what I found, there's tons of YouTube stuff on like how to set that up. Fuck with the density based on time of day. I'm trying to think of like what you'd have to do there. Yeah, I mean that sounds like something you'd have to create like a state tree task for. So I need a non-const version of the mass context. Which, why is that? Or no, it's I need state tree context. More traffic during rush hour. Yeah. I got you. How do I get the state tree context? I like build it, right? Yeah, right here. So I'm gonna have to build that in here. Entity manager. Oh boy. Do we have all that in here? Because this is just a state tree task. I'm gonna keep explaining it to death as that's the theme of the day. Well, you also have to be disagreeing with everything else that anyone else is saying. That's also crucial. Shared state tree. Oh, you have to get like a fragment from the context. It's kind of annoying. Why I can't do so to do signal entity deferred. I need... Oh no, it's just mass execution context. Okay, hang on. Can I just do this then? Jesus. Could C++ have any more ambiguous of syntax errors? Nope. To type What does this need? It needs mass execution context, and this is state tree execution context. Mass context. I need a non-const version of it. Is that what I'm hearing? Am I doing that right? This is mass state tree execution context. Did you fuck with Fab yet? I took a glance at it, yeah. I've seen a lot of people share the same opinion of irritation. It sucks that they didn't transfer all of, like, the questions and reviews and stuff. That seems... hopefully that feature is just in the works, you know. I did find it to be more responsive than the Unreal Engine launcher, which is not exactly a high bar to meet. I gotta find, like, the inheritance for this stuff. I need a mass execution context. This is a mass state tree execution context, which extends state tree execution context. Is there, let me see, context dot get no wish list either. Yeah, I did see that as well. Yeah, I hope this is just a case of they just haven't gotten to it yet. But yeah, we'll see. We need to download all the mega scans at some point. I need to transform this context into a different context. That's essentially what I'm learning here. Which is very annoying. So you need a mass execution context. Let's copy that. "'Tis incomplete, me lord." Yeah, what do I need to pass in here? I guess, what do you need? Context.defer. The deferred command buffer. Okay, so I guess how the hell... Let's try that. Is that it? Oh, okay, there it is. There it is. I found the magic function. Okay, so we are now deferred signaling, which maybe should make it async. I find it weird that in the trace it's just doing it all in one frame. I wish it wouldn't. Like, it definitely seems like it's doing everything in one frame. Okay, but let's see what this performance looks like. Okay, now that just immediately breakpointed. Nice. Sick. Sick. What's your deal? Is it null? Acquire write access. Okay, this seems like an async issue thing. Why wouldn't this, I actually have seen this kind of an issue before. Create or add command. It needs right act. So do I need to do a scope lock? Why wouldn't it scope lock itself? And of course I've forgotten how to do a scope lock. And I also don't know what I need to scope lock as well. Oh boy. Well, I mean, the thing is, this is already happening async. So, I don't know, is deferred even going to do anything here? I would have liked to have found that out without hitting it and running into an error. What to do about this? Okay. Just gonna comment that out so I have it for later if I want it. Okay, back to the regular way of doing it. Okay, may need to restart there. And I'm having another idea. Maybe what we do here. I'm thinking instead of doing new state tree task required, I did create my own signal name here. What is it? It's like nav mesh tick, or it's like tick nav mesh move to. Yeah, so because what this just did, it did new state tree task required. And then would that mark this as completed? Is that what was happening? Yeah, because it returns running here. And then what do I do? New state tree task required. I mean, that would tick, and then do what? Tick just returns running as well. What's wait, how is this finishing? Okay, hang on, I gotta put that back. Y'all ever wonder how something you wrote is even working? Has that ever happened to you guys? So yeah, this is why I haven't been streaming very much, because it's just a lot of me having to figure out why the hell things work or don't work. Which I guess is game dev in a nutshell, but at a certain extent it's just not entertaining. Okay, and let's also, we're going to turn down the spawner to, let's just do 10. Well, let's just do 1. We'll do one thing just to check out the logs here. Okay, pause. Okay, the execute, that's my processor running. Let me look at the beginning of this. Okay. Find wander target task. That one just is executes instantly because we just find a random location and a radius. Nav mesh move to target task. Ticked, but we didn't have the path yet. The way the state tree works is kind of weird. Because, like, it marks all of these tasks as active. All at once. And so it made the move to task active when I don't have anything to move to yet. It also did the find path task as active. Which I guess finally, the result is success here. Found path with 2 points. So we got there. Oh, I get it now. Yeah, so that task is active and running, and then so is the move to task. And then because I did a new state tree task required signal, it ticked the move to target task, which actually caused it to move to the target. Move to next point, yeah. And then, yeah, the processor was processing. We got close enough to the goal. No more valid path points, done path following. And then the move to target return succeeded. And we exited the state. Completed find path and move to. Okay. Okay. So how do I make that more efficient? Because it just doesn't seem like, based on the trace, it didn't seem like that was going to be scalable at all. The signal stuff seems unnecessary. It literally just seems like a wrapper around delegates. And I get like the purpose is to, because there's like, you know, there's a bunch of entities, so you have to decide which entities to update. So that's kind of what it does. It's extra, but I have the entity here. And I do signal that specific entity. I'm just wondering if I can, like, somehow bypass these, or at least do it more asynchronously. Because having 9.5 plus 6, having fucking 15.5 milliseconds of iterating over 1,000 entities multiple times doesn't seem worth it. I mean, like, I have a bunch of character movement component stuff in here as well. But that can be, in my mind at least, pretty easily optimized by just doing a simple pawn movement. And it's taking up way less time overall. Like that's only about 5 milliseconds of this overall tick. I don't know. When I've been working with mass, it's really just like there's just not enough. There's not enough documentation. There's not, like, it's so hard to figure out if what you're doing is optimal or not. At least from my perspective. Like, am I doing things the wrong way? Am I doing them the right way? Is there a more optimal way to be doing this? Which is why I downloaded 5.5. And I don't know why my project is writer just like gave up, I guess. And I resynced the files. Maybe clean? Clean? What is that? Okay. And I doubt a rebuild is going to help me at all here. Okay, well I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick while that runs. Maybe might do more 5.5 troubleshooting after. I don't know. We'll see. Or Okay. And we're back. 5.5 still doesn't want to play nice. How do I figure out if this is actually loading the 5.5 files or not? Because I would like to take a look at the mass source code at the very least. But this looks the exact same. Can I just, let me look here. Can I just, can I open this in Writer somehow? Does this have like a U project somewhere? Tool complete. I mean, I'm just gonna take a peek at a few of these. Mass state tree processor. Let me look in here. Oh, it can't even. Oh, I bet it's not. I bet that's not even the right one. Oh yeah, I can see the file path now. Yeah, it's not. Okay. Okay, so how do I get this to fucking... What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Yeah, that might be something I have to figure out off stream. It's not because I have another version of it open, is it? I feel like that wouldn't... Just trying to use 5.5. Yeah, I'll figure that out off stream, I'll swear. But then that leads me to, what the hell do I do now? So looking through the mass entity stuff, it was kind of leaving me wanting to build it myself, to have more control over the asynchronous nature of it, because it seems like while there is a deferred entity signal, it's still processing all of those in the same frame. It's like asynchronous, but it's still trying to get through all of them in the same frame, which is just not going to be possible for what I want to do. Like, that's not, it's not realistic. It's not realistic. Now, instead of ticking directly, so let's comment that stuff out. Let's go back to, let's just use a signal. Signal, because if I do signal a single entity, I can't do it deferred, because there's like some write scope lock access async fucky wuckiness happening. But I was doing something like this. Entities to signal needs to be in the right scope. Where is that? Now wait, do I add entity or do I add index? I add entity, okay. And then I can signal all of them deferred at the end here. So new state tree task required. Let's see if that's let's see how different that is from this trace here. So yeah, just random frames. Yeah, there's a lot in the state tree processor and the nav mesh move processor. It seems like the move processor is on average a bit longer. Okay, so we'll see. We'll see. Keeping that in mind. Okay, so that was with 1,000 entities. So let's go back to our spawner and take that back up. Back up to 1,000 there. Okay. Let's get the stat named events back on. Boom. Okay. Okay, so none of them are moving now. They moved once and they don't want to move again. What did I do? What did I do? Okay, let's go back to what I was doing. This is what I was doing. Why is that working? Let me make sure that that's actually getting reached, and also that I built the code. That would probably help. Okay, we got 7 ints, 33, 153, 240. What is happening? It's happening quite a bit, actually. That guy just fucking fell over. Is this working now? No, it's not. Okay, hang on. Oh, there goes one guy. Okay, what's happening here? Oh, the pathfinding is failing? Is that what I'm seeing? Failed result received, but no path. Why is that happening? It does say error. Why does the code I commented out even affect that? It's a bunch of successes right there. Yeah, I'm seeing all successes. So where and why did the failures start happening? Okay, let me. Is this still getting hit? I mean, probably not. If we're not finding a proper path, and that's probably not getting hit. Oh, we're going to signal 904 entities that frame. Why are we signaling those? I wonder if the performance degradations are happening because we're signaling entities that have these fragments but don't actually Do I reset the move to target location? No, I don't. Where do I put my... Where's my move to fragment at? Target location, acceptance radius. Okay, so maybe I should have a bool in here for like, I don't currently have a path. I hate that I can't, something that always bugs me is that like, when you're using vectors, like you can't just like leave it unpopulated, right? Because that's just a zero vector, which could be like, that could be a valid location. So you have to have like an additional boolean, or turn it into a pointer. So maybe just bool has path. Set that to false. And then here where I'm resetting the velocity, I should probably do the same with the move to. Nav mesh move to fragments. Dot b has path. We'll set that equal to false, and then while we're at it, let's just also set that back to the 0 vector. And then, so we're doing that when the move is finished. Stop the velocity. And then here, I'll just say if move to has path and that, and then I'll need to set the path whenever I set the target location, which I guess happens here. No, it doesn't. It happens here. There we go. Yeah, this is probably where it should happen. He has path equals true. Let's try that again. True. There we go. Okay. Rebuild. It's so crazy to me how much, like when you're doing a trace on a play-in editor session, like how much slate fucking takes up. Like that was taking up, I could have had double the FPS if it weren't for that. Like that's crazy. I mean, there are a lot of widgets on here, but still. Okay, do we still have the 1,000 spawns? We do? Okay, I'm just gonna click play. What's happening now? Okay, this seems to actually be working now. I'm at 38, 39, 40 frames? 30 frames, 30 to 40 frames? I saw 50 there for a second as well. So what, maybe that's 10 frames better? Let's look at, let's run another trace. We'll compare the two. Trace started. Just gonna let that run for a bit. Hello. They also don't know how to rotate. I did do the rotation, like rotating in the direction they should be moving. And it didn't like not doing that on the game thread, which was quite annoying. I miss the finer details. Are you running their processes every single frame? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of just how it seems to work by default. Super boring, look at him go. Hey, if you're a fan of capsules moving around, this is the stream for you. This is such an exciting stream. Okay, this looks a lot better than what we were doing before. Now the nav mesh move to processor, look how small that is now. That's crazy. It was, okay, so we like cut the time in half now. Because we essentially, I think what was happening was we were ticking them every single frame we didn't need to. But yeah, Firmstool, to your question, is it going every single frame? Yeah, I think they do run every single frame. And that's why I kind of wish I could eject out of that functionality. I'm not sure. Like, you can run it on the game frame or off the game frame. And I'm not sure if running, or game thread. I'm not sure if ejecting off of the game thread. I don't think it. I think it still tries to handle everything all in one frame. Which, yeah, I don't need. Capsules and Unreal Insights. Yeah, this is a dense fucking stream. So dense. Chock full of Unreal goodies. And there's a little bit of there's some source code in here too. My God, can it get any better than that? I'm like 3 layers deep in the source code. Ugh. Unreal Engine and getting lost in the weeds. Name a better combo. I'll wait. But yeah, that seems to work way better. Because it was like, even though they didn't have a path to move on, it was still like signaling the state trees. And the state trees were like doing the tick and stuff, so. And that kind of fixed our signal entities deferred issue here. Now, I want to see, is this going to run any better if I completely bypass the signal subsystem? So let's see if this runs any different now as well. We're cooking with gas now, and my dog is loving it. Okay, how we looking? Frame rate seems to be similar. Another trace. We're tracing. We're tracing. Okay, that's enough tracing. Stop it. Okay, what are we looking like now? See, now the move processor is taking up more, and the state tree processor is taking up less. This one? Was this the one I was just looking at? Yeah, okay, so here's the comparisons. Okay, nav mesh move processor taking up barely anything because it's running a signal, and then the signal processor is grabbing it. Apparently the next frame, because it's deferred. Versus the state tree processor is running, but it's really just running to capture the signals that I'm sending from the Pathfind task here. And signal entity defer did not like that. Could not defer that. Yeah, they seem to kind of even out. Like, it doesn't matter. I think probably doing it, ticking them directly, probably... You know, I wonder if I could... Here's a crazy idea. Doggy is big Angie. But yeah, crazy idea. Could I do... Could I do a parallel for loop here? I think I would need to move... Did I already move time in there? Adjusted delta time. Time in seconds. Yeah, that's already in there. Okay, so... Would there be any issues putting this inside a parallel for? Let's see. A parallel for loop. Let's do it. What does this need? Num entities. Yeah, that's what we're going to iterate over. The body. Is that... I don't know if that's even what I need. Good God, that's disgusting. That's a disgusting syntax. Okay, we got the body, and then I can specify a thread here, right, that I want it to run on? Yeah, we want background thread, which means it won't be bound in a single frame. And then I'm just going to put this for loop inside it and then comment it out just for easy access. Okay, we good in here? Break. Can I just return instead? Yeah. Okay, we'll just return there instead. Okay, I have a feeling that the engine's not gonna like that I'm doing this. I have a feeling that, you know, some sort of... Why are you like this? What happened? Illegal break. Yeah, I changed that. Thank you very much. Okay, so the code looks disgusting, but will the performance look disgusting? That's... Now I'm working with... Okay, now it's going... Is this marginally better? 40 frames? 35? I think I got like maybe a 5 frame boost from that. 5 FPS boost. What does the trace look like? Tracing. I can't believe that actually worked. I don't believe that. Okay, now we're down to 20 frames. But it definitely does seem to... The frame rate definitely seems to drop when the trace is running. There it is. There's the parallel 4. And does that not split it out into separate frames? God, my dog just loves freaking out when things happen outside. It's really great for focus. Yeah, what was I looking at? Parallel 4 task. Yeah, it's only taking 1.2, 3.8. So I got maybe like 1 millisecond savings-ish. All other things equal. I wonder if I should... Moxie, come here. Sit. No, you stay in here now. Sit. Sit! Good. Good sit. Yeah, first of all, I need to delete all these. You're taking up so much space. Hello, please? Okay, it's like... okay. Okay. Yeah, delete all those. Okay, so... I want the... Let's turn on some more channels here. Okay. Wait, what is happening now? What is this? What is this? Is this just a random ass issue? Like... okay, that's... I'm gonna write that off as a fluke, and we're gonna try that again. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if mass entity is it. It just doesn't seem a combination of mature enough and documented enough for actual usage. Play? Okay, we're working now. Okay. Turn on all. I hate that these channels like reset every time. Okay. We're tracing. Let it run. Okay, stop. What do we got? What do we got? Simple movement So how is the simple movement processor working so well on the background thread? This shouldn't be... Requires game thread... Hang on. Mass, where are you? Processor, CDOs... Nav mesh move processor. Requires game thread execution. Wow. Wow. Okay, let's this is gonna be the magic checkbox that makes this run. This thing again. What is this? What is this? Why? What is the tickable object here? Mass signal subsystem. A delayed signal. I don't send any delayed signal. Oh, yeah, I do. In my idle task, I use a delayed signal. Where are you going? No, just sit. Just sit right there. Just sit. Sit. Good. Good girl. I know you wanted to go over to the window and bark at the other dogs, but you can just sit in here, and that's totally okay. Yeah, so when I restarted, this was fine. So... the heck. Yeah, just don't restart the game and you're fine. Okay, let me check that, make sure that mass setting got persisted. Because this is annoying because, like, in my code I have it set to not run on the game thread. And it didn't persist. Requires game thread execution. No. No thank you. No thank you. Save all that. Is it running worse now? Tracing. Stop? Okay. Still seems to be mostly running on the game thread. And so there is a simple movement processor that should be running as well somewhere. Let me take a look at that source code. Because this is what is... I am using this. Moxie, I know you're trying to sneak out of here. Can you just sit? Just sit. Yes, hello. Hello. Okay, so this has some... should tick chunk this frame. Variable tick chunk fragment. Moxie, come here. Stop trying to sneak out of here. Just sit. Sit. Good. Good girl. Just stay. Just stay right there. If it has a variable tick... I mean, this is just getting a delta time to tick the velocity with, so I don't know if this is actually doing any sort of optimization. Yeah, so like how the hell is this running so efficiently such that I can't even find it on graph? Okay, here's a bunch of the parallel 4 stuff. The parallel pour. See, look at this. Simple movement processor. I don't know what I'm looking for. So what do I want to happen? Like how do I want the mass stuff to work? I want it to work such that this doesn't block a frame. And it just runs as fast as it can and completes when it can. I guess that's what I want. And so I can get a whole 3 milliseconds back and only have, like, you know, a fraction of a millisecond taken up each frame by this completing. So I don't really need to check every single frame that because what this is doing is essentially just checking if the entities are at their destination, their move destination. So I don't need that every single frame. I definitely need it to complete pretty often, though, I would say. And then this one, this is just signaling that the path is found, that we found a path, or that the idle time is done. Which I certainly do. That doesn't need to block a frame at all. And so that kind of seems to be a weakness here. I wonder, can I turn this one off the game thread? Would that change anything? And I have to find it in this big ass list. What was it called? Specifically, state tree processor. Can I search for it? State tree. Oh, I can't. Nice. I'm gonna say no. No game thread execution there. Frame rate does not seem any better. Let's look at a trace. Oops. Wrong button. There we go. A trace here for a little bit. Okay, and stop. Okay. Now what does this look like? So I don't get like what that checkbox does, because it doesn't seem like it changed these at all for running on the game thread. Mass representation processor. That runs very fast. State tree activation. It's the visualization processor. Update instanced static mesh processor. Stationary LOD batch processor. Yeah, where is these still seem to be running on the game thread. But like I don't see the simple movement processor, right? Which does not require game thread execution. So either that's so small I just can't even find it, which is weird because a lot of them should be using that. Can I find things in here? Contains simple movement. No event found. Okay, timer name contains. Oh, nice. Okay. Seems like this may actually have some information here. Oh, it's way down here. Okay. Okay, next. Simple movement processor. Next. Simple movement processor. Processor. Don't necessarily know what these arrows mean. Execute task. Yeah, I don't, what was some of the other ones on here? Simple movement, and that was processor _1. What about just processor? No event found. Okay, interesting. And the other one was like trait, right? No event found. Okay, I don't know why it showed up in there. That's okay. Yeah. So I don't get. All I can think of is this chunk requirement here. So if I add, let me just add this to my requirements here, and let's see if that makes any difference, because I feel like that's the only difference between these two processors here. Executing group avoidance, flags is all net modes, auto register. They're both marked as not required in game thread. Execution flags is all instead of all net modes. I mean, is that even going to make a difference? Probably not. It was all net modes, right? Yeah, it was. Okay, so it has a tag requirement. I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess I understand why that would be there. But I don't think I would need a tag. I'm adding the state tree, which I guess I do need if I'm going to be directly ticking the state tree. I mean, they should all have all these anyway, so shouldn't matter. Shouldn't matter. Okay, and stop. Still happening there. Okay, so let's close all those. Yeah, I didn't think that would make a difference, but we tried it. So instead of doing a parallel for here, which maybe we should still do, maybe I can launch this in a separate task altogether as well. So I was doing that. Okay, didn't like that. Okay. What did I do here? Oh, maybe this needs to go out here. No, it still doesn't like that. Where did this one come from? Oh, probably from the for loop. Oh yeah, and I also need to uncomment that. I'm dumb. Okay, that looks better. How's mass entity going? Hey, Hasty. It's okay. It's leaving a lot to be desired, to be honest with you. But I'm trying to figure out if it's worth putting up with that or not. It's working, but yeah, I kind of wish I had more control over some of this stuff. I'm trying to just shoehorn my own type of control into it. Okay, is this even going to work? This is going to be so weird. Yeah, it didn't like that. Didn't like that at all. Yeah, I got scared off from it. What was your experience like? Execute function. Execute order 66. What's happening here? For chunking chunks. Yeah, I mean, I guess this just can't run asynchronously. I'm having this, not necessarily a problem, but like, I've written like my own processors and traits and stuff, and really what I'm trying to just do, which I've done successfully, is just get LOD'd actors slash entities slash capsules to move around on a nav mesh instead of a zone graph. The zone graph's kind of like the built-in way to do it, which is mainly just, it seems like it's just for pedestrians and traffic, but I need arbitrary movement, right? And so I did get that working. I had 1,000 entities moving around and stuff, but like my processor seems to always run on the game thread, even though I've explicitly said I don't need it to run on the game thread. And I'm trying to figure out how to get it more optimized in a way that it doesn't block the frame from continuing or completing before it's done. So I don't seem to be able to do that very well. Especially with the mass signals, doesn't really seem to, like, they have a deferred signal, but all that really seems to do is push it into a different thread on maybe the next frame. It doesn't, like, it still blocks the frame from being completed, which I get that that's might be what some people want, but I can't have it blocking the frame, or else it's gonna run like shit, which it's running like shit. So, oh my god, this thing. Why is this happening? I don't know why this is happening. This is happening pretty randomly. Just mass signal subsystem. Like I don't. It's trying to tick the subsystem. And there's some sort of delayed signal. Illegal name. Yeah, which they don't. Their names are not right. There wasn't much documentation. They're still not. On how to use back when I tried, but maybe they've improved. I mean, I don't know. They have high level documentation, but it's like my experience has been like if you want to use it for anything outside of what it's already been built for, you really don't get any help. I mean, I have the documentation pulled up somewhere, and there's like some community. I mean, this is what we got right here. Quick overview where we have just like these are just general concepts here, like, and then there's this one which is kind of the same thing but with some extra, like I mean there's nothing. This is the 5.5, and so I found like some other people's, like, you either get tutorials like this is your first 60 minutes with mass, which is just like, this is just how to set it up for things that it's already used for, like moving things around on a zone graph. And then I found, like, this one seems to be the most helpful that I've found, but it's a little outdated. Like some of this was put in here like 2 years ago and stuff. Potentially still on 5.2, but it's got like this nice table of context where I can sit here and read, and it's got a little bit extra. So, yeah, I'm having the same experience as you, I guess is what I'm saying. And it kind of just makes me want to make my own system, because this is just, it's not doing what I want it to do. And trying to get it to do what I want it to do has been a slog. And even if I did get mass to do what I wanted it to do, which, by the way, they're supposedly coming out with a bunch of updates in 5.5. Hasty, I don't know if you saw that or not, but apparently it's getting better in 5.5. I just tried to download 5.5 this morning. It's not playing nice on my project, so probably off stream I'm going to try to troubleshoot that a little bit more, see if I can get it working so I can dig through the source code and see if it works any better for me. But, yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards not using it, because even if I did, even if it could do everything that I wanted it to do, it would still be, I would still have to refactor fucking everything that I've done, basically, because like all my logic and data kind of lives in components, actors and components, and so I basically need to either create a fragment representation for everything and just kind of copy what information I need in between fragment world, mass entity fragment world, and actor component world, or I just need to kind of use the fragments as the source of truth in my actors and components, which either way, huge refactor, right? For a game like yours, making your own system is probably the way to go. Seems like an integral part. Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna have way more control that way, and if the Epic devs aren't gonna, you know, put out any sort of fucking documentation, and like using the state tree has been a pain in the fucking ass as well, like, because like I think with normal state trees, you have some pre-built tasks, and you do with mass, but like here are the pre-built ones for mass, which is just like zone graph stuff, some smart object stuff. Like I had to create my own weight task for my idle, like and all of these have to be in C++, like the the class you have to extend from is not blueprintable, so I can't even make any of these in blueprints. So it's gonna, and I probably would do a lot of my own system in C++ anyway, but like with behavior trees, it's really nice to be able to create some behavior tree tasks in blueprints, just kind of off the cuff. And I know that, like, so let me look at this. The Unreal Engine 5.5 instanced actors. So there's this, which I found very interesting. So this is on the 5.5 roadmap. Instanced actors. The mass framework is a data-oriented way of efficiently managing entities that can be represented in the game world in all sorts of ways. The objective of instanced actors is to replace actors with mass entities and convert them on the fly between actors and entities, providing a lot more performance out of densely populated open world environments. Which, it's interesting to me that this is on the 5.5 roadmap. Wait, is it? Or am I just am I playing with myself? It says 2023. Hang on. Run parallel tasks, wow. Yeah, it is. So this is literally on the 5.5 roadmap. It was posted in 2023, apparently. But, like, there are already traits in mass for instanced actors. So, and I can already do what this is saying with mass. So, when I read this, I was like, oh, this sounds fucking perfect for what I need, right? But if what's already capable is what that's talking about, then yeah, it leaves a lot to be desired. I can still hit these, which is kind of crazy. All right. Well, I missed him, but it'll hit him eventually. Oh, okay, hit that guy. Yeah, they don't have the regular logic. Because, like, I'm gonna have to redo my entire behavior tree system as well into a state tree, which maybe I would want to do anyways, because the behavior trees are ticking all the time. And I guess that's kind of the difference between state trees and behavior trees. Like, state trees only tick when you tell them to. And behavior trees are ticking all the time, just searching for what should be done. So I think state trees seem a bit more efficient in that regard. Maybe there's more I can do with behavior trees to make them efficient and not tick as much. But maybe I'll end up using state trees anyways for this. But yeah, the way the state trees work is kind of, I guess it's similar to behavior trees where it's like, you really have to understand how they work, or else you're gonna come into, like, I had a pain in the ass time getting it to work when I first started using it, because I didn't understand that, like, the states they were all in, like, I have 3 tasks, and I was trying different setups of this. Like, this is a state right here, wander, which has the find the wander target, find a path, and then move to path along that target. And like I had this as like 3 different states and like a parent one, and it like if you parent and children are like both active on here, so like root would be active, so would wander if it's in here. And the same goes for tasks, I guess. Like these all get marked as active, right? These don't happen sequentially, right? So it's kind of hard to understand at first. How do you know the 5.5 details? I mean, I was just looking at the roadmap here. This is the 5.5 roadmap. But yeah, I just downloaded 5.5 to look at the source code to see what they even did with this. I don't know. Let me just search mass. Is there nothing with entity? I did see nanite skeletal meshes is in 5.5, which seems like it could help my case a lot. Struct utils. More eye-catching colors, hell yeah. State tree diff tool. I find it weird that they're developing a state tree and a behavior tree. Like, I feel like they should just fold the capabilities together. I'm excited about some of the procedural content generation stuff. Like, where was it? Where was it? Yeah, the GPU compute sounds freaking sweet. Spawn static meshes on the GPU. That's insane. It says no collision and indirect lighting support when you spawn on the GPU, but I'm wondering if, like, spawn it on the GPU and then just, like, calculate those afterwards on the CPU. Probably one of those things that is not going to be clear on how to do, if it's possible or not. The new version of PCG Graph Executor scales better under multi-threading applications and makes it possible to run PCG tasks not bound to the engine frame time. See, that's what I'm looking for. That's the good shit. But I already got my PCG. Like, check this out. Let's go. Let's pop over into PCG land here. I got the PCG running pretty fucking great, if I do say so myself. Let's boot that bad boy up. So yeah, we're building the world right now. But the PCG that spawns on top of this, first of all, spawns very fast now. It only takes a few seconds. And the runtime generation of it is fucking great. I tinkered with it quite a bit, changed around some of my PCG graphs a little bit. Mass is even executing right now, so that's going to tank my frame rate a little bit. But yeah, we're still on 80 frames right now. And I've seen it go at 120. The editor is kind of wonky about how it contributes resources. Pretty indeterminate. But yeah, I'll just be like running. There's a little hitch there. That might be from mass. I might turn off the mass spawner on here. Because I was originally... Well, yeah, what is that? Hang on. Okay, yeah, let's, I'm gonna stop that real quick. Let's delete the mass spawner in here. And so, like, the way that was generating, the terrain is not bound to the frames either. So yeah, now we're at 100 FPS. And what is happening here? Oh, this is in world map. Do spawning. Okay, yeah, that's... Hang on, I can probably turn that off. What was I doing here? Oh, yeah, that's why. Yeah, so it's gonna do that. It's gonna do that anytime some chunks generate, which was probably causing the hitching, right? Or like 110 FPS. Yeah, I mean that dropped like maybe 10, 20 frames right there when it, because it was generating some more terrain chunks and therefore PCG. Yeah, it dropped down to like maybe 80, 90 for a bit. But I think that can get even better in a package build. Because there are some command line commands that you can run to like set how much frame time PCG has to execute. So I think if I tinker with that a little bit as well, I think we'll start to see some trees pop up in the distance here. But yeah, in my opinion, this runs very, very well compared to what it used to. Yeah, see, there's some trees over there. See, I'm very happy with how far this came. And I did a lot of manually tinkering with the PCG biome plugin, so I've diverged from that quite a bit. And I was actually able to figure out how to get the PCG points to serialize to disk at runtime, which is crucial for what I'll need it for. Because, like the resources specifically. So, you know, I can sit here and chop trees. The stream feedback is a little choppy. I'm just now noticing. Let me try that trick I did before. Dude, that's so crazy. That seems like it's running so much better. It's very smooth on my screen, I promise. But yeah, like with the resources and stuff, like if you imagine this rock is just like some ore that I can mine, like I want that to disappear. And so when the player like comes back into here, I can't have the PCG graph re-render that. And like now that it's all calculated, like I don't need it to run on the CPU anymore, right? Once it calculates it the first, same with the world, with the terrain chunks. Like once they calculate on the CPU at runtime, I don't need them to do that anymore. I can just save it to disk and read it from disk back when I need it. And I can do that far enough away to where I'll never need to worry about how much time it takes. So that's going to be one of the next pieces of optimization I do. And I'm going to do that once I get actors running around in the world using mass or whatever the hell I cook up. And right now I just have like, so let me show something off over here. So let's go back. So you can see this is all still generated, and it's just distance cold. Why isn't it? Wait, why isn't that generated? Hang on. I gotta go back and check that out. Why isn't that generated? I thought I fixed these issues. Was that over here? Yeah, it was. Oh. Oh no. Okay, so I was having issues where, yeah, there's just an empty series of chunks here. Because this is executing on a grid as well. And so there's some grid points here that aren't generated. And I think it just ends over here. So it cleaned up everything over here. But what I was going to show is like, let's go over here. Then I'm going to drop in a little enemy character here. And so now the PCG generates all around him as well. And so he's going to hopefully walk around if I didn't break his AI. He should be a... Oh, there's no navigation anymore. I broke the navigation. So he would be running around if there were navigation generating. But yeah, I'm going to have to do the same with the navigation, right? Calculate it once on the CPU. And there's some chunks over here that are like rendered, but or not rendered, but calculated. That's why PCG is showing up on there. So yeah, lots of things to do here, but if you can imagine, like this will be like a theoretical entity in memory running around, and if I have him as a PCG generation source and a navigation source, for PCG I can like not render like the grass, right? The grass doesn't do anything, but like the trees, I would need the trees, right? Because I would want him to be able to chop down the trees if he needs to. And so that's what I'm planning to do with the serialized PCG points, is just like read those from disk, keep them in memory if I need them. Don't keep all the grass in memory, but keep maybe some ore locations and stuff, and just kind of like generate it in a wider distance around the player, not so wide around the, I don't think enemies will need to do too much, but like like if your colony's way over here, then I don't need much radius around a colonist to do things like go chop trees or whatever, right? Because I'm thinking they will have areas that you'll tell them to go chop trees in or something, or like at least a radius you define. And so I would really just need to figure out where they are within that area, and then potentially just run the character out there to get that generated. See if there's any left. I mean, I may need some state trees to actually handle regrowth of like trees and plants. Don't know how I'm going to handle that quite yet. Maybe I end up not. We'll see. I am going to go take my dogs outside. Do you need to go outside, buddy? Yeah. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay. So I did some deep thinking while my puppies were going potty. Yeah, I think I want to take a stab at making my own kind of mass entity type system. I think I may just use some of the concepts here, same concepts in my type of system. Let me think about what that may be. So let's do an MS Paint. So mass entity. Make that white. So we have entities which have traits which are just fragments. It's an array of fragments. And then we have processors, which that is a terrible R and S. Processors, that's marginally better. Which iterate over I'll say just for each in. Dude, I want what Odd has set up, where he's got like he's got an actual like stylus or something. I want that. But like processors iterate over for each entity with a certain set of fragments. And that functionality all seems nice and seems like what I would want, right? Because I feel like I need to intelligently iterate and not do any extra work, right? Like that's the key here. And these processors have a way to define requirements for what they iterate over, and then I guess they're past, they're kind of past that information. But I guess where this is all breaking down for me is, I guess, the async nature of it is not it's not hitting for me. And why isn't it hitting? Because it's happening on game thread. So I'll say async locks whatever frame it's on, and I need the processors to not do that, so that I can squeeze out as much performance as possible while still having, you know, these simulations running in the background. I need it to be like lazy, not just I need it to be async lazy, non-frame blocking, which I don't seem to be able to, or at least I haven't been able to figure out how to make these processors do that. Because I think it's because of the signals framework. So it also has an aspect of like working with state trees. Which I would want to send signals to, which, like I said before, essentially is just a wrapper around delegates, but for entities. So it gets past like the entity to send it to, which I don't think it doesn't seem very complex. But it's like I need all this functionality, I just need it to work better. And I guess some of the built-in traits, like that doesn't really they don't really do much for me. I'm having to basically recreate the wheel with now. The wheel hasn't been created, I suppose, but I need to create my own traits, so I'm not going to be duplicating anything there, really. Just like the velocity and transform traits, which, like, you know, it's literally just effectors, so nothing crazy there. So I'm just trying to like break down the system a little bit here and think about how would I do this if I was in control. Locks. So yeah, both of these seem to lock the frame, sending a signal to the state tree or processors, because I've tried to, from within a processor, use signals. It processes all the signals in the same frame. Then I'll just say, let me point here, I'll say every frame these seem to run. Every frame. And I suppose I will need something that runs every frame. But I don't need it to operate on every entity, every frame. So I'm thinking about a subsystem here, using a subsystem, which I think the mass entity framework uses quite a bit as well. So if I just have like a subsystem that, what is this subsystem going to do? It's going to have an entity, which is this is just an ID. All that entity is an ID. I guess the only trait that I'm going to have to like do a considerable amount of work to recreate is like the actor visualization trait, which kind of sucks because that one is kind of nice the way it works, but it'll give me better control. Because I was looking for like, it was kind of hard to determine the events of like the actors popping in and out. Like that was something I had to dig through the source code to figure out, and I only found like when this component gets registered or unregistered. I didn't really, and then I had to change my like my enemy character code to like make sure it worked with that. So that was kind of annoying. But okay, so I'm gonna need subsystems. I need like a spawner. We'll just say sub spawner. I need a spawner sub. Let's put a line here. Hang on, red. Y'all ever do this in school? This guy, like you're writing down, you're running out of paper, so you just like draw a line. You're like, okay, here's the new one. I haven't written down on paper in a long time. I need a spawner subsystem, and a little bit down here, I'm going to say, well, let's say what the spawner subsystem. I suppose at a base level, this is just going to use noise. Well, the way the mass spawner subsystem works is by using EQS, which seemed to work pretty well. I think I can probably do the same thing. EQS, Environmental Query System, I think, something like that. And then I think I'll need to add some other subsystems for like groups of enemies, you know? Like, I'll definitely, I won't just want enemies randomly spawn throughout the world. That's not very exciting. That's more of like a backdrop, right? Like spawn some wolves randomly in a forest, but I'll also want like collections of enemies, you know, like if there's a cave, I want it to be filled with spiders or something, you know, if there's like a bandit camp, you know. So I'll have a subsystem for that to kind of like, I guess, just create some behaviors, some collective type behaviors for them. Yeah, but I guess the spawner subsystem literally just spawns using EQS entities. And I will need to have an entity will need like information on it, right? But I may be able to have finer grained control over when that information becomes relevant. Right? Because with the way mass works, you define this config for and each one of these configs relates to like a type of NPC, right? And then you spawn them. I don't have a spawner in that level, but you can spawn them with different weights, different NPCs. But like all of these traits and fragments, like this has force, and some of these, the way they add the fragments is so weird. Like you have to click this like validate entity config, and something popped up in the bottom right that says it's like, oh, this is valid. But for some of these traits, like they require a fragment, and it's like, oh yeah, you need to add that fragment in order to use that trait. And it's like, okay, why didn't you just add that yourself then? Why am I having to manually add it? I think I remember watching a video about Mass Entity when it first came out, and the guy used static meshes with anim to texture plugin to animate static meshes for gathering resources. Was he just using that for far away actors? Or was that for like the high fidelity, close to the player ones as well? Because there is the there are instanced static mesh animations, I believe, or instanced. I don't exactly know how it works, but oh, for all of them, interesting. I'm wondering if that's the same thing as what I'm thinking of, because I know there's like maybe they're vertex animations or something like that. I forget, but there was some animation optimization. He wasn't using actors. Okay. Yeah, I know. So they weren't even skeletal meshes at all. Yeah, especially with the incoming nanite skeletal meshes, I don't know like how much I'm gonna need to care about that. Yeah, I don't know. To me, I don't think because you can just like turn off the actors, right? It's essentially like you can turn off the animations of the actors if you're not like looking at them, or if they're not even close. I feel like for me that's not going to be that much of a bottleneck. I feel like the bottleneck for me is processing the entire world. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge I have to overcome here. And I know like I'm using ALS, which is kind of an expensive movement system. It's using a character movement component. And so I am planning on doing a bit of an overhaul for that, to where, you know, maybe only enemies in combat use ALS or something like that. But I'm essentially just planning to replace the character movement component with just a pawn movement component, with just like some simple physics on it. So I think that'll be fine. As far as animations go, you know, we'll see how much we can get away with there. But I think my biggest hurdle right now is just processing thousands of things. Of just, you know, it's just data at the end of the day. So, but yeah, I think one thing that I can do better is how these all come into relevance. Because it seems like they all may be relevant and may be being acted upon by processors with how Mass Entity works currently. And there's no way to like say, hey, you know, the player is this far away, so I don't care about the agent radius or some shit, you know, I don't know what it is. Or I don't need it to tick as often when it's super far away. So I think I can do a better job at that. But we got a spawner subsystem using the EQS to spawn entities. And I can probably just copy a lot of that from what Mass is already doing. But I'm going to need some data, right? Entity data. And I mean, I'll probably just end up using structs for this, which is kind of what fragments are. And that'll be my replacement for traits. And I don't get like there's traits and fragments, and a trait is just a collection of fragments. Like I don't know that I need like 2 levels for that, right? Like I feel like that can just be a flattened list of data. And essentially this is going to be like I wonder if I can just have components, like actor components. Is that too expensive? Like you can see here in my logs, like food and sleep are ticking. Like I'm wondering, can't you set like tick rates on components or something like that? So I'm wondering if I can just like rather than keeping an actor in memory, like just keep its components in memory, just the components I care about, right? You know, I have like a nameplate component, I won't need that, right? But I would need something like, I don't know, like the inventory component or something, which I guess really it should probably just read and write from disk. Should I just do everything from disk when it's far enough away? Yeah, because memory, is memory going to be an issue? I mean, it's assuredly a consideration, but yeah, I kind of feel like I should just serialize it whenever something changes, right? Load it into memory real quick, make the change, serialize it, and that can happen all asynchronously, right? I think I do that. I'm doing that with PCG, so if I just continue that trend. I'm gonna write that down. We're gonna be serialized components. And then really what's the part that I'm gonna need to change is like this. It is gonna be all this. Is like this is pretty much, you know, this is pretty much the same as what had been done already. And so for my processors, or like my spawner subsystem, then I'm gonna just need like a, I don't know what I'll call it, like my entity subsystem. I can write my entity subsystem. I'm just learning about the instance structs and how to use them. Some dude was talking about, yeah, Elliot was talking about that, Dr. Elliot. They're dope. Yeah, I mean, just arbitrary data, I suppose. Those could definitely be used here, but like I just don't know that they're necessary. I don't know if I want to be on the bleeding edge of that functionality in Unreal Engine either. Okay, so am I going to need... Yeah, I definitely am going to want different, like, tick rates and stuff. They're serialized and replicate. Yeah. I guess I just like the part that's I guess I'm caught up on is like I already have all these components set up that have data, and their data is kind of just like I do have them kind of like serializing with structs anyway, specific structs built for them, and I'm gonna still need that functionality for when I'm actually like rendering the real thing. So I don't see a reason to change that, how I'm doing that right now. I'd rather build this to work with that, because I think I'm going to need to do it anyway. Okay, so I think what I'll want to do with this subsystem is I'm going to need to... I will need to process every entity every frame, right? Or not every frame, every however, it's going to need to constantly be processing. And when it gets done with one like loop, you know, do the next one. And I wonder if, like, the subsystem should have access to the entities, and those entities, do I need to, like, should I pre-store them with, like, what fragments they have, right? Because I'm going to want to have my own processors that iterate on a certain fragment or a certain piece of data and like process it. And the subsystem is going to have every entity. Should I guess one option is to just iterate over all the entities and just send them to what processors, you know, look at their data and oh yeah, doggies. Yeah, I don't know how heavy actor components are. Probably depend on how I use them. Yeah, I have that same question as well. Or maybe have one component manage all the entities' data instead of having each entity having its own actor component. Yeah, I think it really depends on how I want to like iterate on these entities. It's like for each entity, like I'll have a list of, I'll say I have a list of processors which have a list of like what data I need, and I'm going to need to check each entity for what data each entity has. And if it has all the data for a processor, you know, send it, you know, build a list of it to send to that processor, and then that processor iterates over it. I'll just say like match with processor. My face is covering that up. There we go. And then like, and I guess this system is how it's going to change, because this system is not going to, this loop is not going to block a thread. It's just going to run as often as it can, and it's going to batch together groups of entities to send to each processor. Each processor will iterate over the entities that it cares about. And this data will be I don't know if it needs to be in there'll be a lot of reading and writing to the disk if this isn't in memory, because this is going to happen pretty often. But if it's non-blocking, like, how much does that matter? We'll have to play around with it. Serialization, I guess, is that might be like a phase 2 type feature for this. I think for now, maybe just to make it easy to think about, we'll just think about it in terms of all this stuff is in memory. And then once the processors get a batch of entities to iterate over, you know, they can kind of decide their own tick rate, potentially. Yeah, I guess I could have each processor could have a... I don't know if maybe like a delta time. Should it be in terms of delta time, or should it be in terms of like frames? Probably delta time would be the better. I'm just thinking of like some sort of like, because like a processor, let me also shoehorn this in here, can have a, I'll just call it tick rate. Tick rate. I'll be surprised if anyone can read any of this, but match with processor, yeah, and so like this tick rate is just like all the time. This is just constantly running. And then if the, you know, delta time matches up with what a processor needs, it'll be like time since last ran, like a processor will have like what time it finished running or something. Maybe when it started and when it finished, and like I can do like, oh, okay, this processor only needs to run, you know, every X seconds after it last finished or something. I wonder if it should be in terms of like the a loop, right? Like how many of these loops, right? Maybe that could be the tick rate. I think maybe that makes the most sense, because it's really like a ratio, right? But I guess would that have any like gameplay side effects? I guess under like yeah, so like on a shitty system that can't run this background system as fast, like the simulation would be shittier. That's the real pay to win right here. If you have a good machine, the background simulation is better. So that makes me feel like yeah, maybe it should be based off of delta time then, so it's not like system performance based. Yeah, maybe delta time is what's best. Of course, that'll just make performance tank even more on low-end systems. I guess I'm definitely not thinking in terms of frame rate. Like I'm definitely not thinking in terms of like every X frames, because like this subsystem here will just be running as often as it can. Like this kind of has its own loop, right? Because it's not going to be bound by frame rate. It's going to be running completely in the background, non-blocking the game thread. And so it kind of has its own frame rate in that regard, like how often it can run. And then these processors can maybe... I think they're also going to be on... Most of them would probably want to be on the background thread as well. And so they're going to potentially work out from outside this loop. And like, because you could think, like, this loop just batches entities together into which processors give a shit about them. And then the processors are like, here's what I do with them, when I should do that. And then those can potentially, like this async process can potentially overlap with like the next one, right? And so these could potentially these could be processing like an old batch when like the new batch from here comes in. And so they could maybe have some functionality defined for like, you know, do I want to finish processing what I have? Do I just get rid of the old batch and try to start processing the new batch? They can have some logic for that as well. Where was I getting the bottleneck? Did you say signal logic? Yeah, it was like... It specifically is because anytime I wanted to update the state tree, it would block the frame, no matter how I did it. Like the processors within mass entity, they run within a single frame, and they don't let the frame continue unless they're done. That's essentially what the bottleneck was happening. And I want to be able to, like, because one of my processors was just checking the transform and the move to target location and seeing if they were close enough, and then signaling the state tree to stop moving, right, or move to the next state. And that had to all happen for every entity within the frame. And to me, like, I don't need that to happen every single frame, but I do need that to happen like every so often. Like, it can't be every 10 seconds. Like, that's too much, right? But it could be, as long as this runs, you know, once every half second, that's good enough, right? And that could be kind of where this tick rate comes in, which is really like a delta time. That was the shittiest arrow I think I've ever drawn. This is really delta time. Like, how much time? What's the amount of time? What's the amount of time this can wait till it runs again? I think that's going to be where my performance benefits come from, as opposed to mass. And then the processors do the, like, I'm done moving logic. So I did have a... before I heard about mass, I was doing this. What is all this about? What is all that hubbub about? This isn't even where I wanted to go. Simulation component. Okay, so... here's my simulated move to that I wrote before I was doing mass stuff. I just have a spline, which I should switch to using the async pathfinding. But this was just a test, right? And I'm just setting the location every tick. Now, with the mass stuff, it uses velocity. It just adds a velocity, and then I guess the physics tick is what makes that happen. And so when these are rendered as actors, I'll definitely want to use like the physics and add movement input and stuff. But when these are like entities and not actors, what do? I mean, I could just set location. I don't know. Is setting location more expensive than like adding velocity? Yeah, here's the tick. Simulate move to. Yeah, just set the actor location. Because I mean, really, what's I wouldn't need to set actor location, right? I would just need to set a vector, which like that's pretty cheap, right? So maybe I don't even need velocity. I would just change a vector, right, for its location. So I would have like a location. I'd probably just make it a transform fragment or piece of data. And then I would just need to match the move rate to what the actors do with the acceleration and stuff. Kind of like fake physics, I guess. The mass component should just update a transformer vector for movement. It doesn't, though. I mean, it has a velocity. Like, here's the simple movement trait right here. So this is the processor loop. This is for each entity. And they have this concept of entity chunks, which I don't think I'll need. But, you know, here's the for each entity loop in here. This is the velocity fragment. I mean, I guess it is setting the translation, but it's based on the velocity value plus delta time, so, or times delta time. So I guess you're right. It is just setting translation. I don't know why I thought velocity was happening. It's just they're using velocity as a separate concept from movement. From movement, I guess. But I guess I would do something similar. Oh, you know what I was thinking of? I was thinking of the translators. Yeah, so there's the... and I wrote one of these. So let me look at that. Yeah, so this is similar to what it does. I had to write my own to work with ALS, but this is a movement translator, and so I can actually get a reference to the entity character if there is one. And I can send, I call it just send movement input, which is just, it just adds the velocity. It just adds the velocity to the actor. And so I create these processors, and then I'll register them with the subsystem somehow, just like on startup or something. And then I guess I need, let's think about how I'm going to change these in between actors and some other entity. Would I still give a shit about collision? Maybe? I don't know. I guess it depends. Am I going to be taking combat with this as well? There's so much to think about. But I guess I would have a processor that's running, and it could probably run pretty lazily, but it would just be facilitating the handoff between an entity and an actor. And really an actor is, at this point, a subcomponent of an entity, right? An actor is a piece of data of an entity. And then that's where I would and when it's an actor, I guess I would need to not tick I would need to not tick things like the you know, like the fucking the movement, the simple movement ticker, right? So there could be some processors that invalidate other ones, potentially. Because yeah, I kind of don't want the... I mean, I could either just get rid of the entity from the subsystem altogether at that point, and then just make the actor authoritative in that regard. Or I can have, like, this subsystem be the authority throughout the entire game. Which could make the handoff easier, because then it kind of acts as a source of truth, and really all it does is the actor is just a representation of an entity, rather than being like two separate things. But that would mean I would have to change kind of how I have everything set up right now. I mean, maybe it's easier, maybe the first pass of this, it's easier to just like take the entity, you know, have this processor, probably run that processor first before anything else. Because these processors, I guess, they're ordered as well. Because I know mass builds out a dependency tree of these. But I think I would probably just have an array of them and just like put them in the array in a different order, just to make it simple. And yeah, I would just have the representation one tick first, and just be like, hey, do I need to change any of these entities? You're very ambitious trying to tackle these systems as a solo dev. Thanks for the encouragement. I don't know, I don't see this system as too difficult. There's just a lot to think about. There's a lot to think about in terms of like what kind of fidelity I want out of it. I don't think the base system of mass entity is very difficult to implement. But, you know, making sure the individual functionality of what I want each entity to do, I think that's going to be the difficult part. And I guess I'm going to need like state trees or something, or, I mean, is there a way to like reuse a behavior tree? I already have everything in behavior trees. Scope creep going to hit you eventually. This is a core pillar. My core pillar is scope creep, so it's what the game is about. And I guess, yeah, I'll need to look into whether or not I should use behavior trees or state trees here. Scope Creep Simulator is the game you're playing. I thought that was the whole category on Twitch. Am I in the wrong category for that? So, yeah, so I need to figure out if I want to use state trees or behavior trees here. Let me take a quick gander at a behavior tree. What types of settings do I have? Let's actually stop. I don't like either, actually. I don't like either solution, to be honest with you. I don't like state trees that much, and I don't like behavior trees. Like, they both have idiosyncrasies that provide ambiguity to the development process. Like, new service, new decorator. I mean, I was kind of hoping for like a Because these by default tick every frame, I suppose. Or would I just like, would I change the controller? Tick interval seconds. Yeah, I could. Can you change this like dynamically? The tick interval on a controller? I assume that's what controls the behavior tree tick. I think you should use Niagara and static meshes with baked animation for NPC and turn them into actors for combat. But I mean, I think that would be my. But I mean, you're thinking about the things that like the player actually sees. That I mean, I'm thinking about things that are happening on the other side of the world, right? Like I don't need either of those things for that. Like I think we're thinking about different ends of the problem. I think what you're saying is something that I'll need to consider eventually, but I'm just trying to get this stuff to run in memory right now. Because I don't really think that there's going to be a whole lot happening around the player. Like I guess I just don't see that end of the problem being the difficult part of it to solve. To me, it's making everything tick on the other side of the world. That's the difficult part. And then, you know, what representation those take when they're close to the player, I think is a... I don't know, I see that as an easier problem. Definitely not an easy one, but easier. Because I can just change the radius that happens at, right? I don't think you can use animation logic. Seems to stop game thread won't allow async actions. I don't think, I mean, my animations are not authoritative in anything, really. I have timers that run, like for combat specifically, like a lot of it is based on timers. And then I'm having those timers run via C++, and then they just sync back to the animation blueprint. And so, even with the anim notifies, what I do is I just get the time that those happen at in C++, and then I start a timer for that time. So I don't even really use anim notifies as authoritative either. Okay, so I kind of already have a simulation component added on my actors that kind of like turns them off. It doesn't despawn them or anything. I'm trying to think of like in my head how this would look. Shouldn't you have as much logic as possible as a trait, though? You're talking about even when the characters respond? Yeah, that's kind of what I was debating between. Or fragment or whatever. Yeah, I think I see what you mean. But yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about, like, should I have this entity system as the authority? Or should I have actor version and entity version as two separate things that just, like, transition between the two? Or should I have entity subsystem be like the authority? Because then I would need to like... I was kind of just thinking like as a first pass, just have them be two separate things. And they just kind of hand off between each other. Because that means I won't really need to rework a whole lot just to get this running up, just to get like a first pass at this. And then maybe after I do that, I'll determine... So I definitely don't want to duplicate logic, like, you know, write the fucking mass entity logic for it and then write the real logic for it. But at the same time, I will probably want to have levels of detail for logic, right? Yeah, I think I just need to do like a first pass of this and get something down. And it'll, it's one thing I hate is like trying to fucking think about everything ahead of time. And like, I have to do that for work, writing design docs and shit, and I don't like it, because by the time, you know, it'll take a fucking month just to plan everything. And then by the time you finally get around to implementing it, you know, you're like a quarter of the way through, and guess what? Requirements change, things change. Oh, you didn't consider this, and it's like, okay, you spent all that fucking time writing that doc, getting it approved, addressing everyone's fucking nitpicks and concerns and shit. For what? You know, I'm not saying that you can't design some overall architecture just to be like, here's what we're going to shoot for. But like some of these decisions, like I'm just going to make on the way, right? It's just going to be an iterative thing. You account for all the things and you forgot how you even coded it, yeah, or like you don't even need to account for some of the things, or you know, you need to account for something you never intended for originally. Just invalidates all the work you did designing it at some point. Yeah, okay, so I think first pass, I think the spawner will probably be pretty easy. I just need to figure out how the EQS stuff works. Worry about something that doesn't even matter and waste days on it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and when you make things too hard, it's kind of a tangent, but like when you make things, like I have a problem with the culture at where I work, where everyone wants things to be perfect, which is actually worse, right? They want everything to be right the first time, they want it to be perfect, and they don't understand perfect is actually bad. Because when you make things more difficult to get done, they don't get done. Like I have written design docs that are still just sitting as fucking design docs because, you know, the level of work to get started and complete it, you know, is too much. Whereas like we could have done like an MVP or a first pass at it, and we could have had something on the table that would have taken a good fucking slice out of it, right? A good chunk of time from it, which would make it easier to get done in the future. Yeah, building simple and working our way up. Yeah, dude, my product managers are absolutely fucking terrible at making an MVP. Like they want everything to be perfect, and like they go through these multiple rounds of like UX, and like our UX people are like pixel perfect level shit, and it's just like they're creating all these components that are like way too complicated. Like, I mean, it's not that they're not doable, or like it's just so unnecessary. And you're just like, every little bit that you're stacking on top of this house of cards is exponentially increasing the effort it takes to get it done. And if you just went with the simplest solution, got it out there, and then iterated on it, you know, it would be out there already, and we'd be getting feedback, right? We'd be getting feedback on the technical details, on the product details, you know. Frustrating. It's really frustrating. Because when you're working iteratively and you have to change something, it's not a big deal. But when you're working waterfall and you have to change something, it's fucking painful. Anyways, rant over. Layers of unneeded of autism. Okay, so I need a canonical entity, which I suppose will just be a struct with an ID in it, a unique identifier, which is really just going to be an index, right? And I'll need some sort of base struct that represents entity data that I can extend from, I suppose. Yeah, maybe I should look into instanced structs. Because I mean, instance structs are really just like they're almost like a JavaScript object, right? Where you can just like put whatever the fuck you want into it. So it's kind of like introducing dynamically typed programming types into a struggling type system. It's kind of the purpose it serves. And then, well, I mean, I would still kind of be using the strongly typed, because I would need to know which instance. I need to know the specific class of the data. Oh, my doggy's snoring right now. She's having little puppy dreams. Hi, did you wake up? You're being a good girl, Moxie. Thank you. I just don't know if I want instance structs. I don't know if I want to spend the time figuring out how they work. Because, like, I guess what I'm going to need to do is check for a class anyway, right? I'm going to need to, for determining what processors to send the entities to, I'm going to be like, hey, do you have this data? Do you have this data that needs to be updated, right? There's just not any documentation for it, as you probably have guessed. Yeah, okay. That settles it. Not doing it. And so, I guess when I spawn, I'll need to define what data they have as well. Because, I mean, really, like, every entity I spawn is going to need a location, right? I mean, I guess you could... Yeah, I mean, kinda. So, like, a lot of these are going to have overlap. I mean, you know, a wolf isn't a colonist, so it's not going to have the colonist level traits or data or whatever. Yeah, structs. I create a subsystem, and that's just like... So subsystems have ticks. But I guess that each... I think I would want it to have its own tick, right? Let me... I'm gonna hop into the C++ now. Let's create a folder. My entity system. Okay, we're gonna add a Unreal class. What subsystems can I? There's a list. Hang on. Unreal Engine subsystems. What are my options here? There's different classes, right? To see what the right. It's giving me 0 information. I thought there were some docs that showed you like the different classes you could extend from. I know there's like the world subsystem or something. tickable world subsystem. I think it just needs to be a tickable world subsystem, probably. The hell was that? What? There was an error? Lame, okay. What the fuck is happening here? Hang on, I'm just gonna fucking try that again. That was... Delete? Delete. My entity subsystem. What? Okay, okay, we're just... Give me some other... What is happening to these files? Am I being dumb right now? Like, why is none of this, like, resolving? Well, like, what was the error that happened? Should I just restart Writer? I'm gonna restart Writer. And let's close the other Writer as well. I don't use Writer, I'm poor, I can't help you. Or use Student. If you're a student, you get it for free. Or do you know someone who is a student? Seems fine now. I don't know, Ryder was being lame right there. I'm an old man who know nobody. Hey, same. Class, you, my, entity, subsystem. Okay. Okay, we're waiting for Ryder to finish doing its shit. There we go. There we go. And we're back. Okay. What do we have? We just have subsystem, world subsystem. How are you handling inventory items? What kind of data type are they? Yeah, so I have an inventory component. that has like an inventory U object inside of it that contains just a class I made. So it's essentially a U object. And then I have data tables as well. And so there's a data table struct that gets populated into the, you're going to love this name, the UMyItem object. And then there's an array of UMyItems in the inventory U object, which is interacted with through the inventory component. Yeah, I think I'll just stick with a U world tickable subsystem. So, what functions do I have here? So initialize and take are probably the one. Deinitialize, yeah, probably. We'll just do that. Wait, what? Okay, now that's working. Okay. Just sets whether or not it's initialized. So I'm kind of wondering if do I tick through? Do I literally just run this on tick? Because I was kind of saying that I just wanted it to not block the frame. Yeah, so I guess two different ways I could do it. One is to just like when it initializes, just start running an async task, and whenever that one finishes, spawn another one. And those all run in the background thread. And I don't even ever need the tick. And that could end up ticking more than every tick. I could schedule it for the next tick to prevent that, so it runs at most once per tick. Or I could just, let's just do it, keeping with the simplest possible first. Run it every tick. And so my subsystem is going to need an array of processors. So let's create a U object. My entity processor. This is going to be the base class, essentially, and I'll just need a function for like process entities. I suppose I'll need to create my entity type as well. Which I suppose I'll just have this as a my class. So I'm gonna change it into a struct, right? Suppose I don't need the C++ CPP file. My entity U struct instead. Struct. We need to go over there. Just an F my entity, and this will essentially just be like, I just need an int, I don't know, we'll find some way to like populate that and shit. Well, you said that's what I would do, but I'm nobody. Wait, what were you talking about at that point? I missed that. Inventory? Like you do inventory the same way I'm doing it? Is that what you're saying? But yeah, entity processor is going to need to take in an array of entities. And it will need to be virtual. So on tick, we I need like a master list of entities as well, right? So I'm gonna need like a something like that. And really, it should return the entity ID. And yes, I'm using full ints here, not int32s. And so I will need all entities. I like putting all my members at the top. Let's create a wait, can't I do no, do one of those. Static initializer, isn't that what it's called? So we add an f my entity, and I guess they're just going to be like the index, right? Should it be num? Because some could be removed. Some could be removed. Should I just have a counter? Yeah, we'll just have a counter. Yeah, next entity ID. And then that returns, should that return the entity or the ID? Return the entity. Okay, so we can add entities. And then an entity is going to need to have some, probably like a t-set of data or something like that. My entity data. Do I want to call it entity fragments or just entity data? I'll just call it entity data, make it simple. Make it simple. Unrow class, another U object, we're just calling it my entity data. Use struct, change it to a struct, and it's just going to be entity data, and it's going to be completely blank. Include that. Keep it simple. I agree. I agree. Keep it simple. Okay. So I can add an entity, and it gets rid. Hang on. Let me see here. Because I'm gonna need to populate this data with stuff. I'm gonna need, like, I guess they'll be called archetypes, which I think is what the term they use in the mass system. But it's gonna be just like a preset config of entities and their data, and so that's gonna be added here by the spawner. Essentially, the spawner is going to call the system and add an entity. So maybe I return the mutable entity here, so that the do I want to add the entity to the system before it has all of its data? I guess what I'll do is have an input here, t-array of f my entity data. Entity data. Const ref, yes. And then we can change that back to const. I love data tables. You'd have a data table with default data you could read from for entity data. I mean, it's really a data asset, right? Because it's not like I don't need to keep records of it, right? I just need something that defines. I mean, it's literally. Oh, I stopped the engine, so I can't look at it. But yeah, I think a data asset is actually the more appropriate use here, because each spawner is going to have which data assets it needs to spawn, and I don't need multiple of the same archetypes, really. Okay, yeah, so we add an entity with an ID and this is like an archetype, right? But it's an array of which data chunks it needs. Yeah. I just don't think you're saying like in Excel and stuff. Yeah, I definitely use data tables. I use that more for like records, right? Like each item has different stats and stuff, but I don't use that for like a collection of settings, which is really what this is representing, right? Now, here's where we get into the for loop. Let me get rid of some of these other things. I'm gonna tidy up my workspace here. Don't need that one open. At least don't have any. Okay. How many data assets would you be having? I don't have that many. I think I just use data assets for like... Yeah, I mean, I guess if I needed a ton of them, I wouldn't be using them. Okay, so do I want to do a parallel for here? So I'm also going to need a collection of processors somehow. Why is that not, why is that not autocompleting? Oh, it's because I did F. You, my entity processor. Okay, so that's going to need to be there. And then how am I populating the processors? I guess also with like a data asset or something? Wait, how do I get blueprint information in here? Oh, you've had corrupted data assets. Do you know what happened? Or was it just Unreal just doing Unreal things? Yeah, how the hell do I, how do I get blueprint information in here? Is there Unreal Engine Subsystems blueprint? Can I make a blueprint representation of it? Hi, sweetie. Did you wake up from your nap? Subsystems enable access to blueprints through user-friendly typed nodes. I know I can use them in blueprints, but I want to like I guess I can just hard code it for now. Yeah, something like that. Because I want to make this like edit anywhere and like blueprint read write or something. But it's like this wouldn't even show up in the world. So yeah, I don't know. That's just a placeholder, but that's I guess how I'll add them for now. I would like to add them in some sort of blueprint form, but we'll get there when we get there. Parallel 4. Okay, so I don't know if I want to do a parallel 4 here. I think maybe just a regular loop. And then each processor is going to need a set of a T set of fmy entity data. Something like that. I guess, yeah, that's a set as well. Okay, so is there a way to do like contains a subset? How do you iterate over a set in Unreal? Because I know it's fucking way more difficult than it needs to be. Let me check out Unreal Engine tset functions. Tset contains subset. I really need to, I guess, like, I don't need to iterate over this each. So I really need to create like a, I think this will need to be a U property as well, of a tset of subclass to which processor? My entity processor pointer. And so it would be like really like yeah, something like that. And so data to processor map. I mean, I'm gonna have to iterate over it regardless. So is it even worth having a map of it? Probably not. I think maybe I'll want to do an array. Because, like, I can't do, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I can't do something like this, right? Or can I? Can I iterate over? I guess I can. I guess the entity data is really going to be that. And so there's going to be one that's going to be data classes that I'll match against. And then I guess in here, entity data, or for each and entity data classes, I'll need to create a new one. How do you create a new struct from a T subclass of? Can you even do what I'm trying to do here? How do I T subclass of struct? Is that even a thing? Like, I don't think you can do what I'm trying to do here. So how does because you can do like yeah, you can do this. What does this return? A U script struct. So if I have a U script struct, how would I initialize it? How do you do what the hell I'm trying to do? I mean, okay, here's the question then. Like, do I care about it being a struct? Yeah, I mean, a mass fragment is just an empty struct. So how the hell does it add structs, like instances of structs and shit? I mean, do I care about it being a struct, or can I just like make it an empty U object as well? Like, what trade-off would that have? I mean, maybe it just passes around instances of it and doesn't actually do like a static struct or anything. So maybe I should just like Maybe I should not be passing in or defining a subclass of it, just pass around an instance of it, I guess. Then I'm wondering if I should store this information separate, right, to where an entity doesn't have all this data. Yeah, I mean, maybe I should just do a U object. I don't really care about having... I don't know, what functionality I'd be missing, if I don't use a struct. Maybe everything should just be a U object? And then the U objects just define what their data is. It is almost time for me to get off, though, so... something to think about off stream, I suppose. Yeah, I feel like before the next time I stream, I'll probably have this system up and going. At least the first pass at it. Its hard stuff seems simple, it isn't. You have to go. Yeah, maybe I'll take a look at these. I don't know. I mean, I just don't. They really do just instance structs really do just seem like U objects. So I mean, I feel like if that's the case, I'm just going to use something like a U object that's well known and well used. You know. I mean, what I'm trying to do can be done with anything, really. It can be done with a struct. It can be done with a U object. It can be done with an instanced struct. I don't know what I would be missing out on depending on which one of those I chose. I kind of just leaning towards U objects because I don't know, that seems like the most standard way to handle it. That's not gonna have any surprises. But they're made specifically what you're trying. I mean, structs can be used as well. You can extend a struct, right? I'm just going to create different structs for different pieces of data. I don't need an instanced struct for that specifically. A U object, the U object and I guess the f-instance struct would just allow me to store the types as well, which I don't necessarily need to store. It's more like a nice to have. Because I can just store instances of the struct, of the plain struct, and then just match. I can just get the struct type from that and match. I don't need to store and initialize from the classes. But. I don't know. I hear people talking big game about instanced structs, but I just don't see a use case for them that isn't already supported by other things, I guess, and it's also new. And I feel like I've seen a lot of forum posts about how instanced structs don't work with this or something, or some issues with them because they're kind of new. So I think I would rather just use U objects. And then I get to be able to use them as pointers as well. rather than having to worry about passing around by reference and whatnot. Anyway, I'll have to think about it off stream. I'm gonna hop off for now. Hasty, thanks for stopping by and hanging out. Same with Firmstool, Turning Cog. Everyone else who's watching, thanks for hanging out. I'm gonna hop off now. I don't even know. Is there anyone to raid? Do I know anyone online? I don't think so. So I think I'm just gonna hop off. Hopefully we'll stream more and see you guys all later. And hopefully this ends up being a fruitful venture for me. We'll find out next time I stream, probably. Okay.